If you've played Ben 10 video games, we're searching for the best one, starting with Ben 10, Protector of Earth, the video game that currently holds first place, up to Ben 10 Galactic Racing, which surprisingly took third place. Today, after a year, we're resuming this search with the first Ben 10 Omniverse video game, a rare, misunderstood video game once considered the worst Ben 10 game. Now, after several years, I played it again, and let me tell you, I found some good things, but I've also found its bad sides. I suggest you watch until the end. I'll be quiet for a month. Let's begin. Ben 10, Omniverse has a complicated story, whether good or bad. Well, I would say it's one of the best in the whole saga, but it's really poorly structured, at least to be told in a video game. Let me explain. The video game begins with Ben and Rook in a simulator, while the Galvans, Bloke, and Gandriva work to fix the Omnitrix malfunction, which causes Ben not to transform into the desired alien, a problem that's followed him from the start and we know well. Now the bad thing is that they give the mission to these noobs, and you know they're going to mess it up. In fact, they do. Rook is sent to the past, disrupting the timeline and creating a new future. This will cause both good and bad things. The good thing is that thanks to this event, we will have the opportunity to travel to the past, allowing us to visit places that we wouldn't be able to in the future. Besides playing with aliens from an 11-year-old Ben, the downside is they only explain this after 90 minutes of gameplay. From the start, they waste your time because you aren't even fighting real enemies. You're battling solid holograms of Vilgax, Vulcanus, Driscoll, Hybrid, and Zombozo. It's understandable that these enemies, who have been bosses or mini-bosses in previous video games, don't appear again, but that doesn't mean they deserve this disrespect. I'd prefer Vilgax, Zombozo, and their henchmen over the current saga's enemies. Which, let me tell you, are only 5, although we'll talk more about that later. Let me tell you, the best part of the video game is the aliens, since we can uniquely play with 2 versions of these aliens, more or less. When Ben was 11, we could play as Heat Blast, 4 Arms, Diamond Head, Wild Mutt, Cannonbolt, Wildvine, and XLR-8, plus the debut of iGuy, Arctiguana, and Feedback. Currently, with Ben at 16, we can play as Heat Blast, Diamond Head, 4 Arms, Cannonbolt, Wildvine, XLR, 8, and Arctiguana, and the introductions of Gravitack, Blocks, and Shock Squatch. The game tries to sell you 20 alien forms to use in battles. That's far from reality, since you have the same alien in both the past and future, with the same attacks and moves. Only its skin changes. You can fight with 3 aliens total. My favorite was Gravitack, a meteorite with immense power. With 2 slaps, he could knock you down and then finish you with an attack that reminded me of Kratos' Atlas Quake. With this alien, everything was bam, bam, boom. For a moment, you thought time was stopping, something that was part of his power, but actually it was part of his gameplay. And the gameplay, everything felt like slow motion, and it was the same with every alien. During the battles, it was heavy and tedious to fight the same creatures that never posed a challenge. If you move slowly, you can imagine that the enemies were twice as slow. They were like, hit me to see if I react, just like with the alien attacks? Okay. It was interesting to use each alien's abilities to fight, like Wildmutt's bark to stun, or Feedback and Shock Squatch's lightning to electrocute enemies. Although if we go further, several of these powers were used specifically to solve certain puzzles, like the original and epic ones from Arctiguana. They were visually stunning and showcased the aliens' powers spectacularly. Now, there were others that were tedious and repetitive, like being able to sniff out some tracks with Bestias, rolling Cannonbolt over these things, or moving these others with Gravitack. It was a nightmare repeating it at every level, always facing the same enemies. Throughout the 11 levels, you're introduced to 5 enemies. The mutant ants, the mutant spiders, a bunch of breeders, these batteries, and the mini malwares. There's nothing else in the game, a real lack of respect for the player, because, I repeat, the game will become tedious and tiresome. Sometimes I felt like I was playing something incomplete. And seriously, it really makes me angry, because it could have easily been one of the best Ben 10 games. At the story's start, Rook was sent to the past and teamed up with young Ben to stop malware. Sadly, the red jelly would absorb the plumber's proto-weapon, creating a multitude of problems that would change the future Rook belongs to.
What a story. By obtaining the proto-tool, Malware could now make technology change shape instead of absorbing it. That's why he's so strong now.
Malware had become so powerful and aimed to grow stronger, and only Rook could stop them, more or less. The Galvan's experiment caused him to travel to both the past and future periodically. In the alternate future, the Galvans made 3 morphic generators for Malware. These were the ones who made the holograms at the game's start. However, Malware would try to turn any hologram into something highly technological and dangerous. Ben destroyed one of the 3 generators in the future. Now the problem was that the 2 remaining generators weren't accessible in the future. So Rook used to try destroying them with Grandpa Max and Little Ben's help. An excellent story, isn't it? Well, let me tell you that this is finally explained after 2.5 hours of gameplay. You need to get this far to be able to understand what's going on. We have to defeat Malware, the game's final boss. The other bosses don't really make sense. 2 ants, a siphon spider, and Dr. Animo are filler bosses with no real importance to the story. That's right, the first boss, the ant, appears in the simulator where it's harmless. These bugs are actually more dangerous than the boss. The second one, introduced earlier, can now fly, but its only purpose is to stay still so you can eliminate it. The spider is more the same. Now, the fight with Siphon is so easy that even Rook can defeat him. What can I say about Dr. Animo? He's just a trap since you don't even fight him. Good and bad emerge from battles with predators. The game gives us 3. The fight against Musolator is interesting since we were never shown his abilities before, so seeing them in action is a big plus. The bad thing is that he's the predator of Crash Hopper, an alien that's not in the game. Not in the version I played. Crabdosser finally feels like a real boss fight. This rhinoceros has several devastating attacks, but he has very little health. Fighting Slam World will test your skills and is fun because he's slippery. In summary, the Predator bosses are good. The problem, or the disappointing part, is that Kyber in the story seems like a threatening guy. This gives us the chance to fight against 3 of his Predator forms, and in the end, he retreats because Ben is simply winning. Kyber's exit as an enemy is confusing and feels like a wasted antagonist, since he could have given us a top boss battle. But in the game, they preferred to put in 2 ants and a spider. Finally, the Bens must create a movie-worthy plan to end the paradox and stop Malware from destroying the world. They must battle this jelly in the same place, both in the past and future, with an epic final showdown. Which turns this into a complicated combination that makes this confrontation a real challenge. While one is like a blender, the other is launching attacks left and right. There's no place to rest. One of the best final boss battles I've ever played. The story's ending is awful. It all just feels like a bad dream. And that's it. No one except Rugaven remembers this. We don't know anything about Kyber, and Malware seems to be alive, but we don't know anything. Ben 10 Omniverse Uno was an ambitious game that aimed for innovation and an epic story, but it failed. The camera sometimes looked good, but often failed to let you appreciate any of the dozens it gave us, which were too few for the game's 11 levels. Anyway, the game falls short and ends up in a very low spot. Do you think that's fair? Let me know in the comments section. Next week, I need to re-upload 2 videos due to copyright strikes. One is the return of Fast Track, the Ion Era. The other is the Top Dimensional Watches video, where I'll have to add a few more and give my final verdict, so you'll get a bit more content than usual. I want to send a big shout out to these people who contribute to the channel. Next week, the Luffy vs. Rob Lucci battles will be available, making it a busy week on the channel. Having said all this, I say goodbye. I'm Frio, and with me, it will be until next time. Goodbye.